My name is Liam Park. 20-4 years old, fresh out of a master's degree in business analytics. One small studio apartment with a leaking faucet. One secondhand suit I ironed 3 times the night before my first day. And absolutely zero idea that my entire life was about to be flipped upside down. Not by the job, not by the city, but by the man whose name was printed in gold letters on the top floor of the tallest building in downtown Soldot Park Enterprises. Yeah, same last name. No relation. Trust me, I asked HR when I got the offer letter, because the universe has a very specific sense of humor when it comes to my life. The offer had come through a campus recruitment drive. I hadn't even applied directly. My professor had forwarded my thesis to someone, that someone had passed it to someone else. And 3 interviews later, I was standing in front of a sleek glass building holding a lanyard with my name on it. Liam Park, Data Analytics Junior Associate. I took a breath. You've got this, I told myself out loud, which earned a sideways glance from a woman in heels who was clearly far too busy to deal with a nervous new hire talking to himself on the sidewalk. I went inside. The lobby was the kind of impressive that makes you forget your own name for a second. Marble floors, a ceiling that climbed 4 stories, 2 receptionists behind a curved desk that probably costs more than my entire university education. The air smelled like fresh lilies and quiet money. I checked in, got my access badge, and was escorted to the 12th floor by a very cheerful HR coordinator named Jenny, who told me everything about the office culture in exactly 4 minutes and 20 seconds, I counted. Because I was nervous and counting things helps me. And just so you know, Jenny said, lowering her voice as we stepped out of the elevator, the CEO doesn't come to this floor often, but when he does, you want to look busy. Not fake busy. Actually busy? He can tell the difference. Noted, I said. Also, she hesitated. Also, he's intense, but fair. Very fair. Just don't be late. Don't be sloppy. And if he asks you a question, answer it directly. He hates when people pad their answers. I'm a data person, I said. I basically only speak in direct answers. Jenny smiled. You'll be fine. She left me at my desk, a corner spot with a window view and a monitor so large it felt slightly aggressive, and I sat down, straightened my notepad, and told myself again, you've got this. I didn't see the CEO that day, or the next 3 weeks. It happened on a Thursday. Our team had been called to the 22nd floor for a cross-department presentation. My manager, Director Shin, had asked me to prepare the visual data breakdown for Q3 performance metrics. I had spent 2 nights reworking the charts until they were, in my personal opinion, genuinely beautiful. Clean lines, color-coded, annotated, at exactly the right points so that even someone who had never looked at analytics in their life could understand them in under 30 seconds. I was proud of those charts. The conference room on the 22nd floor was different from the ones on our floor. The furniture was darker. The table was longer. There were 10 chairs on each side and 1 at the head, which sat empty when we walked in. It didn't stay empty for long. He walked in at exactly 9:02 a.m. CEO Kianesio. I had seen his photo in the company directory everyone had. But photos, I was learning in real time, do not prepare you for the actual person. He was tall, dark hair pushed neatly back from his forehead, a charcoal suit that fit him so precisely it looked like it had been sewn onto him that morning. He had the kind of face that belonged on the cover of a magazine, except that he was clearly not interested in being on any magazine. His expression was all business. Like a man who had decided years ago exactly how much energy was willing to spend on the world and had allocated it very precisely ever since. He sat down without greeting anyone. He opened a folder. He said, "Start." And Director Shin started. I was presenting the 3rd section. I stood up when it was my turn, clicked to my slides, and delivered. Clean. Direct. I walked through the Q3 anomalies, flagged the 2 regional underperformers, and proposed 3 data-backed adjustment strategies. No padding. No fluff. When I finished, I looked up. Kianesio was looking at me, not in the way you look at someone when they've just given a presentation and you're politely attending. He was looking at me the way you look at something that surprised you. A slight tilt of his head. His pen had stopped moving against his notepad. Who prepared this analysis?
Asked.
His voice was even low. The kind of voice that doesn't need to be loud to fill a room. Director Shin cleared his throat. Our new junior associate, Liam Park. Another beat of that steady gaze. Good work, Kian, Hio said. Then he looked back down at his folder and said, Continue. How's it? 2 words. Good work. I sat back down. My heart was doing something stupid and unnecessary inside my chest, and I told it firmly to stop. It did not stop. Over the following weeks, something small but undeniable began happening. I started getting assigned to projects that had direct reporting lines to the executive office. Not huge things at first, a supplementary market report here, a data verification task there. But the pattern was clear enough that even my deskmate Noah noticed. You've been upstairs 3 times this month, Noah said one afternoon over lunch, raising an eyebrow over his noodles. Nobody goes upstairs 3 times in their first 2 months. It's just work, I said. Uh-huh. He slurped his noodles. SEO asked for you specifically on the Meridian account. I heard Director Shin say it. The CEO wants Park on this one. I kept my face very neutral. It's because of the Q3 presentation, I said. He liked the methodology. It's nothing personal. Noah gave me a look that said, sure, buddy, but he let it go. The Meridian account meant I was in a working group that had a standing weekly check-in with the executive team, which meant once a week, every Tuesday at 4 p.m. I was in a room with Kianesio for approximately 45 minutes. He was exactly what Jenny had described. Intense, fair, direct. He listened without interrupting. He asked sharp questions. He never praised unnecessarily. But when he said something was good, he meant it, and you could feel the difference between that and empty approval. Notice things about him that I had no business noticing. He always held his coffee cup with both hands when he was reading. Something that required concentration. Like a man who needed something to hold on to when his brain was working hard. He had a habit of clicking his pen 3 times before he started writing. Not 2, not 4, always 3. When he disagreed with something, he didn't frown. He went very, very still, like a system running a calculation before it delivered a result. I told myself I was just observant. I'm a data person. I notice patterns. It was professional curiosity. Sure, Liam. The moment I stopped being able to lie to myself was a Tuesday in November. The working group meeting had run long. Everyone else had filed out by 5:30. But I had stayed behind to reprint a corrected version of a graph that had an error. I'd only noticed mid-meeting. It was small. Barely visible, but it bothered me. And as I gathered my materials, Kianesio was still at the table, reading through the final report. We were alone in the room. You caught the axis mislabel, he said without looking up. During the presentation. Yes, I said. I'm sorry, it was my error. You caught it, and you're fixing it. He turned a page. That's not an apology situation. That's just competence. I didn't know what to say to that, so I said nothing. He looked up then. Then, for a moment, the professional distance between us was just a room. 2 people in a room. And he looked at me in that way again, that slightly surprised, very still. Calculating look, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Seen. You work late most nights, he said. I like the quiet, I said. I think better when the floor is empty. Hey. Something shifted in his expression. Not much. Just the faintest softening around the edges. So brief I might have imagined it. You too, he said. He looked back down at his report. I left in the elevator. Going down, I pressed my back against the wall and stared at the ceiling and said, very quietly, to no one, oh no, here's something embarrassing. Our company had a directory. Photos, names, departments. Standard stuff. What was less standard? Was that during the annual company's social media initiative? Designed by the marketing team who had read 3 too many articles about corporate culture every employee's profile photo was printed on a large T-mosaic poster that hung in the lobby. The marketing team had also, with what I can only describe as chaotic energy, given every department leader a printed copy of the full team roster with photos for connection and recognition purposes. I know this because I helped put the folders together. I was the most junior person on the cross-department committee. It was a 2-hour job on a Friday afternoon, and I had been voluntold. What I did not know, what I found out much later, was that one of those folders had ended up on Key and SEO's desk, and somewhere in the process of receiving 50-odd folders of employee photos, his had gotten mixed up, or maybe not mixed up at all. This is where the story gets complicated. December. 7 weeks after the Tuesday in the conference room. Our floor's kitchen had been out of coffee for 3 days because someone had forgotten to reorder, and everyone was quietly furious about it. I had taken to walking up the stairs to the 20th floor, which was technically the executive assistant wing, to use the coffee machine there during off-peak hours. Usually around 7 a.m. before anyone arrived, or around 8:30 p.m. after most people had gone home. I know. This is the behavior of a person who is not thinking about the man who works on the floor above that one. I was definitely not timing my coffee runs around any possibility of coincidental encounters. That would be unhinged. It was a little bit unhinged. On a Wednesday evening, I took the stairs up to the 20th floor at approximately 8:40 p.m. The floor was dim and quiet. I made my coffee, leaned against the counter, and checked my emails on my phone while I waited for the cup to fill. Then I heard something. From down the hallway, a door slightly ajar. The one at the far end, which I knew led to a private sitting room adjacent to the executive conference suite. A sound, low and indistinct. I'm going to be honest. My first thought was that someone was hurt, because I am apparently the kind of person whose first reaction to hearing an unidentifiable sound in a dark corridor is concern rather than the very reasonable alternative of minding my own business. I walked quietly down the hallway. The door was open maybe 4 inches. The sound was clearer. Now and then I heard my name. My full name, Liam. I said, in a voice I would have recognized anywhere. Low. Even a voice built for filling rooms. Keon. SEO's voice. My brain stopped. My feet stopped. My coffee cup was in my hand, and I was standing in a dimly lit hallway. Outside a slightly open door, and my CEO had just said my name in a tone that was I walked away fast. Back to the coffee machine. Picked up my things. Down the stairs. Back to my desk. I sat there for 11 minutes doing nothing, which for me is a geological age. Then I opened my laptop and typed a single sentence into my personal notes document, which I had titled, "Work observations do not open at work." Months ago, as a precaution, I think I have a very significant problem. I told exactly one person. His name was Daniel. My best friend since undergrad. A graphic designer who worked from home and therefore had unlimited time to receive panicked voice messages from me. I called him at 9:15 p.m. from a stairwell. "I need to tell you something," I said. "You finally asked someone out," he said immediately. "What?" "No, worse. I was walking past. There was a hallway, and I heard I explained the whole thing." He listened. When I finished, there was a silence. Then, "Okay, wow, okay. I know. So your CEO, yes, was in a room, yes, and said your name in a way that was yes." "Daniel, Liam, I need you to understand something," he said. "That man has your photo, is everyone's photo, the whole company roster. Does everyone else's CEO say their name like that when he's alone in a room?" I had no answer for that. "Double quotes post about it," Daniel said. I'm sorry, what?" "Not literally. Obviously not literally. But okay, listen. There's a thing people do. They tell the story without names. Anonymous. It's cathartic. Also," he added, "I want to see what the comments say. That is the worst idea you've ever had. It's the best idea I've ever had. I didn't post about it, but Daniel did. He had a small storytelling account where he shared little anonymous slice-of-life things. He posted it that night as a third-person anecdote. No names. No identifying details, just a friend of mine walked past his CEO's office late at night and heard the man say his name. That's it. That's the whole story. My friend is currently sitting in a stairwell. Thoughts. By morning, there were over 400 comments. He sent me a screenshot. Most of them said, some version of the CEO is gone for him. That man has been staring at his photo. One comment said, the photo detail is key. The CEO has the photo. The CEO knows whose face goes with that name, another said. If your friend doesn't say something, he will regret it for the rest of his life. And one. Near the top, that just said, tell your friend that the CEO already made his feelings known. He just doesn't know your friend was listening. I stared at that last one for a long time. I want to say I acted immediately, that I marched upstairs the next morning and said something brave, and the story resolved itself cleanly. That is not what happened. What happened was 3 more weeks of me going to work, doing my job extremely well out of spite against my own feelings, and trying very hard not to read anything into the way Kiancio looked at me during Tuesday meetings, which was objectively different from how he looked at everyone else. I had started paying attention. I wasn't imagining it. When he spoke to Director Shin or the other department heads, he was present and professional, attentive, but impersonal. When he looked at me, there was a fraction of a second more. A held moment. Like a page that had been dog-eared. I am a data person. I do not make things up. But I am also, I had to admit this to myself, a person who was fairly terrified of being wrong. Being wrong would mean I had misheard something, or misread something, or constructed an entire emotional narrative around a 2-word compliment and one overheard moment in a hallway, which I acknowledged was a very possible and very humiliating interpretation of events. So I did nothing until the day Kiancio did something. It was a Tuesday in the 3rd week of December. The city outside was cold and strung with lights. Most of the office had gone home by 7 p.m. We had an early holiday closing that week, and the building was quieter than usual. I was still at my desk. I had a final deliverable. Due the following morning, a comprehensive year-end analysis that I had been building for 6 weeks, and I was in the last stage of proofing. I heard the elevator open. I heard footsteps. I didn't look up. People came and went. It wasn't unusual. The footsteps stopped near my desk. Park. I looked up. Kiancio was standing in front of my desk. He had taken off his jacket. His sleeves were rolled to the forearm. He was holding 2 coffee cups, the kind from the good machine on the 20th floor, and he set one down on my desk with the quiet precision of someone who had thought about this before doing it. I stared at the cup. You've been here? Past 3 nights this week? He said. It wasn't an accusation. It was a statement delivered in that level, observational way of his. I noticed. The year-end report, I said. My voice was admirably steady. I was proud of it. It's due tomorrow morning.
I know.
I commissioned it. He pulled back the chair from the empty adjacent desk and sat down, turning slightly to face me. Show me where you are. I blinked. Sir. The report. Show me the current state. I have time, and I have read every version of this analysis for the past 6 years. I may be useful. There were 100 reasons why this was strange, and one reason why I did what he asked anyway. I turned my monitor slightly and walked him through it. For the next 2 hours, we worked. And it was I don't have a cleaner way to say this, it was wonderful. He was exactly as sharp as I'd expected, catching things I hadn't flagged, asking questions that made me rethink 2 sections entirely and improve them. He drank his coffee. I drank mine. The floor was quiet. Outside, the city glittered in the dark at one point. We both reached for the same notation on a printout, and our hands came very close to touching. And we both paused, and neither of us said anything. And then we both very calmly moved on at 10:15 p.m. I leaned back in my chair and said, "That's it. It's done." "Good." He stood, straightened his sleeves. "It's strong work. It was strong 6 weeks ago, and it's stronger now. Thank you for—" I stopped, swallowed. "Thank you." "For staying." He picked up both empty coffee cups, walked to the trash bin nearby, and dropped them in. He came back and stopped beside my desk and looked at me with that look, that particular, specific look that I had cataloged and worried over and turned around in my mind like a stone in my palm for weeks. "Liam," he said. "Not Park, not the analyst, not the junior associate. Liam." My heart did the stupid, unnecessary thing again, and this time I didn't tell it to stop. "Yeah," I said. "Very brilliant. Very articulate." He was quiet for a moment. I watched something move through his expression. A decision being made, calculation being completed. And then he said, "I want to ask you something. And I want you to answer honestly, not professionally." "Okay," I said. "Do you know why you've been assigned to every executive tier project for the past 3 months?" I held his gaze. "Because of the Q3 presentation, partly," and I could have played dumb. I genuinely considered it. I am not, historically, a brave person when it comes to things that are not made of numbers. But he had said, "Answer honestly." And I said, "Slowly, I think maybe you wanted to keep seeing me." Silence that followed was 4 seconds long. I counted, then, "Yes, Keon," CO said, quietly and with complete seriousness, like a man who had decided to stop pretending. "That's correct." He didn't run from it. I want to say that clearly because I think people expect a man like him composed, guarded CEO of a company at 31 to pull back the moment vulnerability got close. He didn't. He sat back down. Not at the adjacent desk this time. He pulled a chair closer, facing me, and he folded his hands on his knees and he talked to me like I was a person he had decided to trust. He told me that the Q3 presentation had caught his attention not just because of the quality, though. Quality was genuinely exceptional. He said this flatly, as a fact, but because of the way I had presented it. He said most analysts presented data as a product. I had presented it as a story with a point of view. He said he had sat in that meeting and thought, "I want to talk to this person.